What if the next world war was never unexpected? What if it had already been written, not in Pentagon memos or think tank reports, but in ancient scrolls, hidden letters, sacred texts, and whispered visions? Because across cultures and centuries, a strange pattern keeps reappearing. From old prophets and mystics to military men with a taste for the esoteric, all warning of one massive global confrontation. A war unlike any we've seen before. One that doesn't start with a single missile, but with rising tensions between East and West. And at the center of it all, Iran. A country long prophesied to be both a spark and a shield. Feared and watched by global powers, yet revered in spiritual traditions as a player in the final battle between good and evil. This isn't just about religion or politics or even war. It's about whether we're now living in the exact timeline so many believed would come, one shaped by prophecies of massive global conflict. In this video, we'll piece together what they said. From secret letters said to predict 3 world wars to texts warning of a tyrant from the West, and the strange feeling that history is repeating itself, by design. So let's start where most won't dare to look. A prophecy about 3 world wars, the third still unfolding. Let's get into it. In 1871, a man named Albert Pike, a former Confederate general and high-ranking Freemason, allegedly wrote a chilling letter to Italian revolutionary Giuseppe Mazzini. In it, Pike described a sequence of 3 world wars that would shake the very foundations of humanity. The letter was not published in Pike's lifetime. In fact, its existence has been a matter of intense debate. Some say it surfaced in the archives of the British Museum in the early 20th century before mysteriously disappearing. Others insist it's a forgery, propaganda cooked up to frighten or manipulate. But here's the thing. Whether real or not, the details are disturbingly accurate. According to the letter, the First World War was meant to destroy the Russian monarchy and create a foundation for communism. The second was to pit fascists against political Zionists, leading to the rise of Israel and a new world order. And the third, the one that's supposedly still ahead, would erupt between political Zionism and the Islamic world. Pike wrote, "The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam and political Zionism mutually destroy each other, while the rest of the world falls into turmoil morally, socially, and economically. A war so catastrophic that it would leave the world exhausted, divided, and ready to accept a new global system, possibly under a centralized authority." That sounds eerily like the world we're seeing form around us. Zionism and Islam are locked in a long, bitter rivalry. Iran and Israel, backed by superpowers, are circling each other like predators. Conflicts flaring in Gaza, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen, often framed in religious terms, but deeply geopolitical underneath. Skeptics argue that the Pike letter is too perfect, too convenient. They claim it was never actually written by Pike, and no historical proof exists beyond a few citations in fringe literature. But even if it was fabricated, how did it so precisely foreshadow events that hadn't yet happened? This raises a deeper question. Are we looking at prophecy or programming? Because whether by divine vision or deliberate plan, the sequence is unfolding, piece by piece. And the most volatile piece of all? Iran, a nation portrayed in many traditions as the one standing in defiance of Western dominance, the one place the fuse keeps circling back to. So if Pike was right, and 2 world wars already fulfilled, parts 1 and 2 of this strange prophecy, is the final act already in motion? While Pike's supposed letter points to a clash between Zionism and Islam, ancient Islamic texts seem to zoom in on a specific confrontation, not just religious, but geopolitical. And at the center of that storm is Iran. In Shia Islamic tradition, particularly in the Nahjul Balagha and other writings attributed to Imam Ali, There are forewarnings of a time when chaos will come from the west, when a ruthless figure known as Sufyani emerges. Though his exact origin is debated, he is consistently described as a tyrant from the western lands who marches through the Middle East, spreading destruction, especially targeting Syria and Iraq. He's said to provoke widespread bloodshed before being stopped by a rising force from the east. Many Shia scholars, as well as fringe theorists, believe Iran plays the role of this counterforce, the nation that refuses to bow. In these prophecies, it stands firm while others fall into line. It does not submit to the invader, and that refusal is what makes it dangerous, not just politically, but spiritually. In modern times, this narrative has gained traction, particularly as tensions between Iran and the United States have escalated. After the U.S. invasion of Iraq, sanctions, cyber warfare, the assassination of General Qasem Soleimani, and constant warnings about Iran's nuclear program, the idea of a tyrant provoking chaos in Islamic lands no longer feels metaphorical. It feels timely. The Dajjal, the Islamic version of the Antichrist, is said to emerge during a time of intense global confusion and falsehood. And many link the rise of Western influence in Muslim-majority lands to this prophetic chaos. America, to some, has become the stand-in for this destabilizing force, not because of religion alone, but because of its global military footprint, its cultural dominance, and its alliances. In some interpretations, the Dajjal does not come alone. He is preceded by fitna, a storm of moral confusion and political unrest. The pieces are already on the board: proxy wars across the region, the collapse of national borders, rising authoritarianism, and the increasing use of technology, like AI drones and surveillance, to wage war without ever declaring it. Iran's role here isn't just symbolic. It's strategic. It borders key flashpoints: Iraq, Afghanistan, and the Persian Gulf. It leads alliances with Syria and Hezbollah. It has quietly built cyber warfare capabilities, missile systems, and regional proxies, all while enduring some of the heaviest sanctions in modern history. To many within and beyond the Muslim world, Iran represents resistance, not perfection, but refusal. And in that refusal, it may very well be fulfilling the role assigned to it centuries ago. Because if the prophecies are to be believed, the West won't just face off with Islam in general, it will collide directly with the force that dares to resist it until the end. And that force is Iran. This brings us to another warning, one that emerges not from secret letters or sermons, but from the hadiths themselves. A battle they called Al-Malhama al-Kubra, the Great War. Among the most discussed end-times events in Islamic eschatology, the Great War is a battle so massive and devastating that it has no equal in human history. This prophecy is found in multiple hadiths, particularly in Sunni traditions, and it describes a global confrontation between two vast alliances, one from the Islamic world and the other often referred to simply as Romans. While some interpret Romans to mean literal Europe or Rome, many scholars and modern interpreters understand it to symbolize the Western Alliance, led by powers like the USA and NATO. The Malhama isn't just another war, it's apocalyptic. According to narrations, it will dwarf all previous battles in scale and intensity. Tens of thousands will die each day. Cities will crumble. Entire regions will be engulfed in flames. And it will mark the beginning of the end, setting the stage for the emergence of the Mahdi, Islam's awaited messianic figure. But before this great battle erupts, there are signs, and many of them are already showing. One of the most chilling signs is the presence of armies in Syria. Prophetic texts describe foreign forces gathering in the land of Sham, modern-day Syria, as a precursor to the Malhama. Today, American, Russian, Turkish, Iranian, and countless proxy militias all operate within Syria's borders. It's no longer just a war zone, it's a chessboard. Another key sign? The drying up of the Euphrates River. The Prophet Muhammad is reported to have said that the Euphrates would dry up, uncovering a mountain of gold over which people would fight and die. While interpretations vary, many now see this as a metaphor, pointing to control over oil, water resources, or even hidden wealth in the Middle East. The Euphrates is indeed drying up due to climate change and dam construction. And with it, regional tensions over water and energy are rising. But the most direct signal of all? A spark in Persia, or what we now call Iran. According to some narrations, a great upheaval will begin in the east, leading to a reshuffling of powers. Iran, once Persia, is again positioned as the ignition point. Not because it seeks war, but because it continues to defy global dominance. And it is this defiance, many believe, that draws the wrath of the West and triggers the final confrontation. When the Malhama begins, it is said the Mahdi will rise, not as a warlord, but as a unifier. Yet his arrival is only after the world reaches the brink. So, where are we now? Armies are in Syria. The Euphrates is shrinking. Tensions are peaking, and Iran, as always, is in the crosshairs. The pieces of this ancient prophecy are aligning, not just as symbols, but as current events unfolding before us. Now let's take a look at the East, where ancient Hindu scriptures have described a cosmic war eerily similar in tone, yet written thousands of miles away. In Hinduism, time is divided into vast cosmic cycles known as yugas. According to the ancient scriptures, we are currently in the Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, moral decay, and spiritual confusion. It's the final and most turbulent era before a great reset, and it ends with war on an unimaginable scale. Texts like the Mahabharata and Bhagavata Purana describe this time in haunting detail. Rulers will become corrupt. Greed will infect the hearts of people. Lies will be accepted as truth. Families will break down. And when the world reaches its lowest point, a final war will erupt, a purging fire before renewal. What's striking is how vividly these ancient texts seem to describe modern warfare. They speak of iron birds in the sky, fire falling from the heavens, and oceans boiling over. For thousands of years, these might have sounded poetic or metaphorical. But now, in an age of fighter jets, missiles, and nuclear submarines, they take on an eerie literalness. The Kali Yuga war isn't just physical, it's also spiritual. It represents the collapse of Dharma, the cosmic order or natural law. When Dharma weakens, chaos multiplies. Humanity begins to act in ways that are out of sync with nature, with each other, and with the divine. And when this dissonance becomes too great, destruction becomes inevitable. Some traditions describe Kalki, a warrior messiah, riding a white horse and wielding a fire sword. He's a purifier, cleansing corruption to prepare for the next stage of truth, the Satya Yuga. However, before that renewal can begin, the world must undergo a collapse. From the deserts of Persia to the rivers of India, the stories are different, but the pattern remains. A world out of balance, a final reckoning, and a spiritual force waiting to rise in the aftermath. But this vision isn't unique to the East. Throughout history, certain figures have emerged whose visions of the future remain etched in mystery. One of the most enigmatic among them is Nostradamus. Writing in cryptic poetic quatrains during the 16th century, he foresaw plagues, revolutions, the rise of dictators, and, perhaps most chillingly, global wars. A passage from his writing reads, "From the east shall come the great war. The heavens tremble, fire on earth to pour." While interpretations vary, many believe he was referencing a large war in the east, possibly the conflict between Persia, modern Iran, and its neighbors. His imagery of fire from the sky and the earth-shaking points to a type of warfare we now recognize well: missiles, aerial bombings, and nuclear weapons. Then there's Baba Vanga, the blind Bulgarian mystic with a fan base in Eastern Europe. Her prophecies focused on global conflict, describing a future clash between two giants, one in steel and tradition, the other wrapped in flames. Some see this as a warning about possible U.S.-Iran or U.S.-China conflicts, with flames representing literal war and ideology. Edgar Cayce, often referred to as the sleeping prophet of America, added another intriguing layer to the story. In trance-like states, he predicted wars, natural disasters, and geopolitical shifts. But one prophecy stands out. He warned of a fire that will come from beneath the sands, a cryptic phrase many believe refers to oil-driven conflict in the Middle East, a resource buried beneath the earth turned into fuel for modern empires and war. What makes these seers so unsettling is not their certainty, but the overlap between them. Different continents, different centuries, different languages. And yet the themes echo. A war that starts in the east, an imbalance between empires, fire, sky, and devastation. A world too blind to see it coming. Skeptics are quick to argue that these prophecies are vague, that they can be twisted to fit any narrative. But when so many voices across so many cultures begin to circle the same idea, that a great clash is coming, not just of armies but of ideologies and values, it's hard to ignore the resonance. These aren't predictions built on data models or political analysis. They're visions, symbols, warnings wrapped in metaphor. And yet, they seem to tap into something deeper, a subconscious current that knows when the world is tipping out of balance. What's emerging isn't a single prophecy, but a chorus, one that stretches across faith, mysticism, and history. And when that chorus aligns with modern headlines, proxy wars, and superpowers bracing for confrontation, the line between past and present starts to disappear. Because what was once spoken in riddles now sounds like reality. Now it is one thing for ancient prophets and mystics to warn of a coming catastrophe. It's another when their words begin to mirror the headlines of our time with chilling accuracy. Decades of tension between Iran and the West have hardened into a complex web of conflict, one that mirrors ancient warnings with uncanny precision. At the core lies the shadow war between Israel and Iran, cyber attacks, airstrikes, and quiet escalations across Syria and Lebanon. These aren't isolated incidents, they're moves in a slow, deliberate game with global consequences. Proxy wars in Yemen, Syria, and Iraq deepen the pattern, with Western-backed forces clashing against Iranian-aligned militias in battlegrounds that are anything but local. And this isn't old-school warfare. Drones, cyber weapons, and AI-powered systems now define the battlefield, where decisions are made faster than humans can react, and borders hold little significance. U.S. military bases surround Iran, a country seen by many as the final resistor. Yet the most dangerous development may be the one unfolding quietly. Apathy. As conflict becomes normal, ancient prophecies warn that's when the final act begins. If prophecy teaches anything, it's that the future isn't set in stone. Many ancient traditions speak not just of a singular outcome, but of two diverging paths, one leading to destruction and another to awakening. The Hopi elders warned of a time when humanity would face a fork in the road, one leading to chaos, the other to harmony. The Mayans spoke of cycles, eras of collapse followed by rebirth. These weren't predictions to instill fear. They were warnings, invitations to choose differently. Even in Islamic tradition, while the Malhama signals destruction, it's also described as the prelude to justice, a world reshaped not by power, but by spiritual alignment. In Hinduism, the fire of Kali Yuga is not the end, but the cleansing before Satya Yuga, the return of truth. In these visions, humanity plays a central role, not as victims of fate, but as the variable. And this idea is echoed in prophecies from around the world, from the eagle and the condor prophecy in South America, which says peace will come when the intellect of the north, the eagle, and the spirit of the south, the condor, learn to fly together, to the teachings of indigenous nations who believe the earth responds to collective human intention. So the question is no longer just, will there be war? It's, which timeline are we feeding? Yes, ancient seers spoke of fire, war, and collapse, but many also spoke of light, of renewal, unity, and awakening. They didn't just predict the fall of empires, they pointed to the power of collective awareness. The ancient texts don't ask for passivity. They ask for awareness, for alignment, for people to wake up and realize that prophecy is not a map, but a mirror. It reflects where we're headed, not where we must go. Because the great battle may not be limited to weapons and nations alone. It may also be a battle of consciousness between fear and wisdom, division and unity. And in that battle, every one of us counts.